With XDefiant coming out, I think there's been a broad conversation in the community recently, just about games and Call of Duty in general right now, and there being a lack of competition in the FPS arcade space. And I think that a lot of, obviously we tip our hat to Pat and the stuff that you guys are doing over there at XDefiant. And I think it's shown that like the FPS arcade community is like lusting for something new that isn't Call of Duty. What would a studio or any franchise, what would it take to beat Call of Duty? Is that possible? Or is it really just providing some sort of competitiveness in the space to maybe give Call of Duty like a little bit of a kick in the ass? Because obviously competition makes your peers better. So like, well, what are your guys' thoughts on that?
I don't think so. I'll talk about this outside of a developer's perspective, because I'm sure you'll probably have a more nuanced approach. But from just a consumer's standpoint, at least, I don't think there will be anything that will ever topple Call of Duty, just because it's such a household fucking name. I don't think it'll ever die completely unless they stop making games. I think that's, if anything, it might die out in other senses. Like I think the esports community, the hardcore player community, it'll fade in and fade out in terms of what people like enjoy and they go back to it for. But in terms of the casual community, it just won't die. It's just too big of a household name. It captured the console community for so long. It's been like the only console option for a long time. And I think them making games every year keeps them in it, because their marketing team is so fucking absurdly good, and it's probably they dump so much money into their marketing that it's always hyped. It's always, you know, it in terms of casuals, like I'm talking about casuals, not like the social media casuals, because that already is a level of entry that a lot of people don't have. I'm talking about the people that literally sit at home on their couch and play video games on the side and see TV ads on NBA games. Like those people will always buy Call of Duty. I think though, from the hardcore community and the competitive perspective, bro, like, shit, I'm in that boat. Like, I want an actual fun game. I want something that actually takes skill. Like, I play Call of Duty. I play ranked. I'm involved in the Call of Duty scene because it's all I've known. But at the end of the day, when I actually want to play, like, I don't have fun playing a no skill gap game. This shit sucks balls. I want to have my skill expression be shown. I've played 15 years of Call of Duty, and yet I will still die in the game to some guy that literally just picked it up for the first time because of how dog shit the skill gap is in the game. I think hardcore gamers and professional gamers are always chasing the feeling of being powerful in the game. Like, you want to feel like you are better than this guy and he cannot touch you. And when the game doesn't allow you to do that, it feels terrible. It just feels so bad. Yeah. Go ahead, Pat.
So I was watching a YouTube video. I forgot which creator I was watching, but they actually put it in a very good way. They basically were answering the question of like, can XDefiant kill Call of Duty? And let's just ignore XDefiant. Let's just say, can another FPS kill Call of Duty? And the answer to that they gave was no. But the reason is because Call of Duty is already dead. And what he meant by that was traditional Call of Duty, the Call of Duty that we grew up with, the Call of Duty that we loved a lot, like the 2006 to 2000 and let's just say 18 Call of Duty, that has died, and that will probably never come back from Call of Duty, right? Call of Duty has moved on to a brand new era, I think, with Warzone and the incredibly strong skill-based matchmaking. There's a ton of variables we can list. I mean, I'm sure you guys are aware. Is much different. And so in that sense, traditional Call of Duty has been dead and is dead. And so I don't think the argument is, can XDefiant or another game kill Call of Duty? The argument is and should be, can enter any game, in this case XDefiant, revive what Call of Duty was. And I think that's the perspective that people should be looking at, because we can all agree the Call of Duties that we're playing now are not anything like what we were playing back then. They are so far different. They are, bordering the just true mil sim type of experience in multiplayer, with an incredibly different design direction than Call of Duty had back in the day. And so I really liked his take on it because I think, especially with, obviously I've been a part of XDefiant dev team for the last, 20 months or so. And that's really what it is, right? Just reviving that traditional fun 6v6 multiplayer experience that old Call of Duty provided. And other games as well. But reviving that experience, and I think that's the market that, in my opinion, doesn't really have a game right now. And I think there's a lot of just, first person shooters that want to play a game like that. And so I think, I kind of agree with Chris, like brand wise, Call of Duty is so big. That brand will probably never die. Yeah. But what that brand is nowadays isn't what other games are going for, right? Like, yeah, I think we really need to separate what Call of Duty was and what Call of Duty is now into two different categories, because they're just so vastly different. And I really like that take on it. And I think that's kind of the best way to sum it up, is just reviving the fun traditional multiplayer experience, which I think has gotten lost on a lot of games now.
Yeah. Now, like on the side of Call of Duty, I'm not going to name any names, but I've had certain creator friends have conversations with people on the Call of Duty side of things, and do you think, and I mean, they've publicly shared a lot of this too, like, do you think the reason that it's gone so far from what it once was, like, do you think that there's a level of, I don't know if too many cooks in the kitchen is the right term for it, but like, they're given so much feedback and have access to so much additional statistics now when it comes to skill-based matchmaking and red dots on the minimap and all these little things that they do. Like, there's reasons why they don't have them anymore, because they see certain percentages of numbers. Like, do you think because they've gotten all this excess information on that kind of stuff, that's why Call of Duty has gone more in the direction that it has? Or do you think it's just because they're trying to innovate and create something new every year?
No, it's innovate. No, they're making video games strictly off stats, bro. They're just seeing like what retains players, what does this, what does that. There's no fucking passion in the game anymore. They're just looking at it from a pure monetary perspective. There's a reason why the store is always working. There's a reason why whenever something like that has issues, it gets fixed. But whenever people can't get on the servers, whenever people can't do this, whenever people can't do that, it takes a while. The fact that whenever the Call of Duty releases and then there's that big Christmas break and nothing gets updated, no new content, no new updates, none of all this shit, just consistent bugs exists, is so fucking sad. And it tells me they don't give a flying fuck about their players and they only care about making money. Yes, I get vacation time is important, but if your game is in an unplayable state where thousands or hundreds of thousands of users can't even play, or there's certain features in the game that literally simply do not work, they need to get fixed, or they need to at least be removed so people don't have access to them and don't just be like endlessly try to play and be like, what the fuck doesn't work? Yeah. Like, they don't give a fuck about the players.
Yeah.
They just care about making money. But sadly, there's not any direct competitors. So from a passionate gamer perspective that actually cares about what they play, and they don't just get on every day, crack a beer open, and they'll fucking play tic-tac-toe if it looks pretty. There's no market for that actual passionate gamer that understands games and understands the business perspective and kind of just wants to actually play something that is fun. And they want to feel like they actually matter to the developers, that they actually want to be retained. There's no market for that right now in the Call of Duty arcade or the arcade shooter space. So
yeah,
I
think the last thing I'll say on it is, I think as a Call of Duty fan, and anyone watching this, obviously you're a fan of Call of Duty itself. Like, if we should also want games like XDefiant and other games to push the envelope, because the more competitive that space gets, the better it is for everybody. And so it's not necessarily a fact of finding a game to replace Call of Duty or whatever it is, but but hopefully just provide a little bit more competitive development in the whole area as a whole.